Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I sculpt my nails using MagpieBeauty, and I'm using the shade Blush. This one is my favourite because it's just that perfect nudie baby pink and it suits my skin tone perfectly. Now I'm going to use these as a base for my next design, but if you want to see how I do these, then keep watching. So I've gone ahead and completed the majority of my nail prep. I've removed the previous product that I had applied, I've pushed back my cuticles with this handy cuticle pusher that I use all the time, and I've removed any of the last bits using my cuticle nippers. When your prep is done with your cuticles, it's important to prep the nail bed. So what I'm doing is I'm using my white buffing block. This is just a 240 grit, so it's very light, and this removes the surface shine. Now that's really important when you're applying extensions, because if you don't do that, if there's any oils or any shiny bits left on your nail, your product isn't going to stick. So once you're finished with that, this is how your nails should look, and then go in with your cleansing spray. You can either use alcohol or acetone. I just prefer to use alcohol because it's what I've got to hand and it's a little bit less drying on the skin around your nails. So I'm just spraying this onto my little brush and using that to wipe away any dust. Now for beginners, this is where it gets difficult, using a form. Now these are the ones that I like to use. I get these from Sally's, as I've mentioned in a previous video. What I do is I take it off of the plastic roll and then I remove the dot in the circle for where your finger goes and pop that on the back. That just gives a little bit more stability, makes it a bit more rigid. Now what you want to do is aim for the very middle, and you can see that it's got a line and I've got the light lining up with that. Just bend it a little bit so that it will follow the natural curve of your nail. Then what you want to do is just try to position it directly underneath your nail and without a space. Now this can be really difficult, so don't be disheartened if it takes you more than one attempt and more than one form. Sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 on one finger just because my hands just aren't working and it doesn't want to go into the right place. But what you want to do is try to make sure that the central line is straight down the middle of your finger and that there is no gap between your nails. So you can see that I've got that very tightly underneath the nail. There isn't a gap. I'm just trying to focus the camera so that you can see it flows perfectly under my free edge. Now I find these a lot easier to apply when I don't have a lot of free edge showing. It just fits a lot better when it's just a small amount that I've found, and that's how I prefer to do it. So once I've got it flush under there, I am just squeezing underneath so that it fits perfectly under my finger and it's secure and stable and it's not going anywhere. I'm going for an almond shape today, so I'm going to keep on squeezing that form. It doesn't need to stay very wide, so I'm squeezing it a little bit extra, sticking the sticky parts underneath together, and you can even stick it together a little bit further down the form just to take away some of that length, and it will help you sculpt the C curve a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and apply these on all of my nails. Next, you want to take your dehydrator and apply a generous layer to all of your nails. I actually went in twice because I'm at the bottom of my bottle, so it's quite difficult to get it out. If you are struggling with that, you can see that I'm just tilting the bottle and it helps get that product out. And let the fun part begin. I'm using the MagpieBeauty Builds Me Up gel in the shade Blush. Now this is my favourite one. I love this colour. It's the perfect light baby pink sort of colour. And what I've done is I'm going in and making a slip layer. That involves just gently painting your nail, pretty much like you would with polish, and adding a thin layer all over the surface. Then what I'm doing is taking a larger bead of the gel and applying it right on the free edge where my nail meets the form. And what I'm doing is I'm just very gently tickling the gel. You can see I'm pressing so lightly. It might look like I'm actually pressing harder, but I'm barely touching the top of the gel. And by doing this, you can very easily guide it into place where you want it to go. So I'm focusing on the very edges where the nail meets my side walls, and I'm gently just using little circle motions to create the shape that I want. So you can see just how thin this is when I turn on the side. This is a very thin first layer, and then I'm going in and I'm going to flash cure that. So taking another bead of the gel on my brush, I'm applying that directly onto the free edge and the part where I am applying the extension for now. This is where I want to add the most structure at this current moment, because my next step is actually removing the form underneath and pre-shaping before I add the bulk of the gel. So just take your time and get that structure in the right place. It's a lot easier to do this at this stage than it is to file it all away if you've applied too much product. So when it comes to removing the form, I gently peel back the tabs at the base of my finger, and then I squeeze very lightly underneath the extension. I'm doing this really lightly because I've applied a very thin layer of gel, as you can see. This is because it's just my first layer. I will go back in afterwards, but I want to apply to all of my nails first. So enjoy this little compilation of me doing just that. This is how they look after that first layer on all of them, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to refine the shape. This makes my next layer of application a lot easier. So starting with the side walls, I'm going parallel and making them as straight as possible. Make sure that you have filed the edge of your file as well, because otherwise you are going to cut your fingers. Then I use my thumb to pull back the skin on the side of my nail. This just makes sure, again, that I don't cut myself, and it helps me to make sure that those walls are at a perfect straight angle. Then I'm going to just refine the shape into the almond that I want, and then I'm going to move on and do that on all of the nails. Also, please be aware that I have got the tripod right in my way. That is why this filming is so bad and why it looks like I just haven't got a clue how to file my nails. I promise I do. When you're all done and have that filing finished, go in with an even bigger bead of gel. This is going to provide the main bulk for your extension. Make sure that you apply it very gently around the cuticle and carefully. You don't want this to touch your skin. If you cure it and it touches your skin, what it can do is over time, if you continuously do that, you can develop dermatitis or allergies as well. So just get into the good habit of wiping it away if you do get it on the skin, but ideally what you want to work towards is perfecting your application so that you don't have to do that. So while working to make this product as flush to the cuticle as possible, I'm also starting to build my apex. Now to do this, I want to keep the majority of the product right in the center of the nail. And when I turn to the side, you can see how that is starting to take place. So I'm going to continue to tickle the gel into place where I want it. I've got the structure pretty much exactly where I like it. I like to have my apex fairly in the middle of the nail, facing a little bit more towards the back, because that is what I find gives me the best structure for my nail shape. I've also decided that I don't want to be too boring in this video, so I'm gonna let you just watch and enjoy without me repeating the same things over and over again. So I'm going to repeat the exact same filing routine as I did earlier in the video. The only difference is this time I'm going to be refining the surface of the nail also. So once I've applied my product, there might still be a few lumps and bumps that I want to get rid of, and this is the time to do that so that when you go in with your polish, you get a perfectly smooth application. If you're just starting out with nails, sometimes this can take a long time. I know that this used to take me a good, sometimes an hour in a salon to shape the nail because I've applied too much product. I didn't really know exactly where I should be putting my apexes, and it's just not something that you should get disheartened about because I know that I did at the start. Take your time, focus on getting the quality to be to a really high standard rather than time, because the timing will lower as you do more practice. When I'm finished refining the surface, I go in with my white buffing block just to completely smooth everything out and make sure that when I apply my polish, it's going to be a perfect application. I'm going back in with my brush that is soaked in alcohol to clean up any dust, and once I'm finished with that I also go over it with a cotton pad because it gets any more tiny little bits out of the cuticle, which is essential before you apply your polish. So that is how I sculpt my gel extensions using the MagpieBeauty Build Me Up in the shade Blush. I'm going to be doing something with these nails next for my next video, so if you're interested and you'd like to see what I do, then subscribe and I'll see you then.